In this video, I'm going to be talking about when I knew it was time for me to quit my 9-to-5 job. If you are someone who is thinking about quitting your job, you're quitting your 9-to-5 job and enjoying life, make sure you stick around and watch the whole video because I have some pretty interesting information that I think you'll find useful. In all of my videos, I tend to be very factual, very numbers oriented and unemotional about making decisions that impact your life. But I know that there are some things, there's another dimension to this. When we are working full-time, either as an independent consultant or independent contractor or someone working actually full-time as an employee, a W-2 employee, we have this feeling of security with that company and with your project or with your client. One of the things I want to say is that, yes, there is a sense of security, but that is a false sense of security. And what I mean by that is that you are not in control. You are reporting to your client, you are reporting to your boss and your company. They may decide that, hey, oh, well, there's a problem here with the company, or we don't need these divisions, we don't need this product anymore, we don't offer this service anymore. And there you go, you find yourself blindsided and looking for a job. It happened to me numerous times. I was able to get back on my feet, find another job, find another contract. But again, you're not in control and you end up being blindsided, especially if you're an independent contractor. I mean, I worked on many contracts where all of a sudden the priorities change, the budget change, the approval change, and then, or the management change, and then they decide, oh, we don't want to do this project anymore, it doesn't make sense, it doesn't fit into our strategy. And then you end up like, especially as an independent contractor or an independent consultant, you have to, that's it, there's no notice, they just tell you, okay, you're done, goodbye. They don't have to give you 2 weeks notice. As if that's going to make a difference. So then you have to start looking for another contract, another job, and all that. The whole economy is going more and more towards this gig economy. A lot of this is kind of like the new term that we're talking about. And I think with the pandemic, it's going to get even worse. I mean, we haven't really scratched the surface of that. But as we have more and more workers that are going to be working remotely, you know, if I'm a company in San Francisco, for example, and all my workers, I have some workers in Napa, in Sonoma, in San Jose, in Tahoe, in Nevada, etc. All my workers are remote. You add a couple of people that are in India and all of a sudden you're competing globally. Your job is competing globally, and then you may end up very easily be removed from that equation in the near future. Right now, I think a lot of people, they kind of feel like, yeah, this is the close proximity, it's about skill set. Maybe some people don't have the skill set globally. It's also about the time zones. I think in the next few years with this transition, I think it's going to be, your job is not going to be as secure as you think. I don't want to scare you, but you know, this is why it's important for you to start thinking about taking control of your life and really thinking about your job, about getting real security out of your passive income portfolio or your investment. The reason why I'm saying this is that there is a change that you need to do, and that change, often you kind of feel like you're leaving a security blanket, but this security blanket is not as secure as you think, and maybe the security is really with your investment, with your passive income portfolio, with your rentals and all of that. Because in that case, you are in control. You have more tools and levers to play with in order to achieve what you want to achieve. You also have more visibility in what's going on. So that's my number one step here, is that people are kind of like held back. You feel like you're being held back to your job because of that sense of security, but don't be. Should not be kind of like the component here. The other thing too that kind of like pushed me towards quitting my job, I enjoyed what I was doing, but I also enjoyed my business, the real estate investment business, and then I felt that I was my job was holding back the growth of my company. At that point, I had already my 2 sons that were in there, heavily involved, working full-time. I also had, we just had to hire a salesperson. We had a contractor that was handling the acquisition side, that was working part-time. So I felt like the company was growing, and it was growing without me, and I felt that if I was to dedicate more time to that company, the company would grow much more rapidly. So, and I felt that my job was holding me back, was holding the growth of my company back. And this is another reason why I decided to quit my contract, my 9-to-5 gig. You can also look at the cash flow, how much money this, obviously you have to look at how much money your company is making, your business is making. Of course, if your company is not making any money or it's losing money, but obviously you have to keep your job. You have to stay there, because that's not going to work out. But there comes a point where your company is doing money, and then you have to look at some projection. You have to look at it and say, well, you know, if I quit my job today, I'll be able to pull a salary or pull an income that's going to cover my expenses, or most of my expenses, and then I'll be able to kind of grow the rest of the company, and really then be able to achieve a level of income that's going to surpass what I was getting with my job, my contract, my consulting business. So kind of like do some projection, look at your expenses obviously, and determine that, hey, you know, this is something I can get rid of. If I didn't work, I wouldn't have to do this. I could get rid of a car, for example, or something like that. Don't go too hard on the expenses. Just again, use the Marie Kondo approach. Just spend money on things that really bring you true happiness. You know, that should help you kind of like assess whether you have enough income from your company or your passive income portfolio to consider quitting your job. Another thing too that you may not consider, I mean, risk management. I mean, we talked a little bit about the security blanket, but now I want to talk about, are you putting your company or your business or your rental portfolio at risk by not growing it because you are keeping in your job? Are you putting your investment at risk? So if you're in that situation, let's say you have an apartment building and you know it needs some attention, you have some problems and all of that. If you were dedicated to that particular apartment building, you would be able to make a significant amount of money. You would be able to fix that problem. But because you're working full-time, you're putting that apartment building or that any kind of rental space in jeopardy, and then potentially risking that business survival. So if you're in that situation, then you have a tough decision to make: either sell that business, or if you're in that situation, look at the numbers, and then this could be a good time for you to quit your job, your 9-to-5 job. Right, and it kind of talks about what is the risk of not jumping, especially if you're at a certain age. You know, when I quit my contract, my job, and I was about 50 years old, and I knew that if I continued on that in that contract for another, let's say, a couple of years with that client, you know, when the project ends, then I would have to go and find another contract. At a certain age, when you're 52, 53 and up, it's harder to find a job than when you are 20 and 30. So I knew it would be pretty difficult at that point, and maybe I would have to wait a very long time to get my next contract. This is why it's important, kind of like, what is the risk of not jumping in now? What I did is that I looked at kind of like, what is the right timing for me to jump into my business? And that became kind of like the driving factor, because you want to be able to choose the moment, the best moment for you to quit that job, to quit that contract. You don't want that day to be decided. You want to be prepared, have enough savings, have you know, everything in place to transition to running your business, as opposed to having that dictated by you. And you may not be ready when your employer comes to you and said your job is obsolete, or when your client is telling you they're canceling the contract. it may not be a good time for you at that point. So choose the right time for you, and this is why it's important. The timing is very critical for you to decide that instead of having that decided by you. And finally, you might still be reticent to quit your job. I mean, this is normal. This is a big risk. For me, I had done that over many years. It was not the first time that I had quit my job to do a business. I had been doing independent consulting for a while, so I was used to shifting from client to client, project to project, and sometimes doing my own business in the meantime, like the gourmet sauce company or the catering and stuff like that. But if you're not used to that, make sure that you have a plan B. And what's the worst case scenario? So let's say you are 40 years old, and you decide that, okay, I'm going to quit my job to focus on real estate investing. And then what's the plan B? What will happen if that real estate investing doesn't work? Well, I will have to kind of go back and do this, or I would have to do that, or I will have, and then decide what you need to do. And that's going to give you a certain level of comfort also that you're making the right decision, that you have something to fall back on if that doesn't work out as well as you planned. So I hope you found this information in this video helpful. In my own experience, again, I had been there. Like, I had done multiple transitions in the past, from a full-time employee to independent consultant, and back to employees, and back to independent consultant, to starting a business. So I had done a lot of these transitions in the past, and in fact my first transition, I was very young. I was kind of I already knew that my job and my career had been very fluid. So the last time when I was 50 years old and I decided to kind of quit from my independent consulting career and focus on real estate investing, the transition was a little bit easier for me. And it was easier for all these reasons that I mentioned above. The risk of not doing the transition, the risk of, becoming obsolete and not being able to find another contract at the same rate even that you were planning. So all these things matter to me, and I hope that you found this the information that you were looking for. Remember to click the like button, the thumbs up. That really helps the YouTube algorithm distribute my video to a broader audience. I really appreciate that. If you like anything that deals with financial freedom, real estate investing, investing in general, entrepreneurship, watch the other videos on my channel. Remember to subscribe as well and click that notification bell so that you're notified whenever a new video is added to my channel. Thank you very much.